the HR complaints, the 3 HR complaints that was kind of up in the air that I told you guys about have leaked. Now, you're probably wondering, who has this? Where can I see it? Well, it's so crazy. Okay. How do I start with this? A lot of TikTokers, social media content creators, independent journalists, Candace Owens love to call herself, has gotten this email from this source. Now, Candace Owens dropped it as Van City Reynolds. Either way, they got this email basically listing all of the HR complaints, but the names and the dates of these HR complaints have been redacted. The HR complaints have also been sent to TMZ, Daily Mail, those publications to leak it. Now, TMZ and Daily Mail does have these, alleged HR complaints, okay? But they've refused to actually publish it because there's no names and there's no dates and nobody wants to be sued for defamation. So with that being said, we have content creators, TikTokers, Instagrammers, Paris Hilton, Candace Owens, and myself here to talk about it. Now, as y'all know on this channel, I like to look at the pieces. This is very interesting from the very beginning. Number one, because I'm both fans of Ryan Reynolds. Oh, no, sorry. I wasn't really a fan of Ryan Reynolds, to be quite honest with you. I'm sorry. I'm both a fan of Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, okay, from the beginning of their career. And I found this entire lawsuit very, very interesting. And I'm learning about PR, I'm learning about filmmaking, I'm learning about so many different things. And it's a very interesting type of drama and pop culture that is helping us to expose a lot of things, right? Now, we are going to be breaking down the HR complaints, and there's 3 of them. Now, because, like I said, they have been redacted, we are going off of what the clues in these complaints have been saying about people. Now, based off of what I've gathered that I've read so far, one is about Blake Lively, one is about young Blake Lively, the girl who plays young Blake Lively, which is Isabel Ferreira, and then one is about Jenny Slate. Now, I find all of this very interesting because I don't know why Blake Lively would include these people who have made it quite adamant, in my personal opinion, that they don't want to be involved, because if they did, they would have joined Blake Lively in her first complaint, right? All of these complaints would have been in there. If it wasn't in there, that means that they didn't want to do this. So by Blake Lively releasing all of this information, we're basically coming together, putting all the clues together, and you're basically outing people when they don't want to be outed in the first place. Like, there are a lot of people who go through things, right? Let's say they have been sexual harassed, or let's say people have been sexually assaulted or emotionally abused, things like that. People may want to seek justice and heal in many different forms. People may want to sue. People may want to expose. But that's their choice to make. And Blake Lively is basically saying, okay, if you don't want to formally go on record, I'm going to leak your complaint with or without your consent, which I think is completely wrong. Now, I don't know if that's actually the case. This is what I'm putting the pieces together and concluding. Okay, this is of course all alleged. This is like my interpretation of what's personally going on, and obviously these complaints are coming from Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' camp. Okay, this is not just look, no, it's literally coming from an email called Van City Reynolds, according to Candace Owens. I don't know. We're gonna go through all of this together, and it's just so crazy. I'm gonna go through each complaint one by one. We're gonna first talk about it. The first complaint that we are going to talk about is the one with Blake Lively. Okay, so this is the Blake Lively complaint. So there are 3 of them. We're gonna go through each of them together. And also, happy snow day for anybody who's in Canada who's experiencing the massive snowstorm that's happening right now. And this is ahead of the amended complaint that Blake Lively is expected to drop tomorrow, which is February 17th or February 18th. Okay, so I am filming this on a Sunday when these leaked HR complaints have been leaked. I'm filming it on this day for you guys. Let's get into it. So the first one So it's been redacted. So we have complaint at the top, date of complaint redacted. Program director, of course, just Baldoni's name is Claire, not redacted. Complainant location redacted. A summary of complaint. Complainant is clearly traumatized. In her verbal account of incident, Director Justin Baldoni approached complainant and asked her to speak privately. He asked complainant if she has ever had an orgasm on camera. She asked why this is necessary to know. Oh, this is Isabella Ferreira, by the way. So this is Isabella Ferreira. That's what I've concluded anyway. She asks why this is necessary to know since a climax is not scripted in the scene. Baldoni then leans close to complainant's face and whispered, "I think we should go ahead and add it in. Show me what you got." End quote. Complainant did not feel she had the authority to decline. Complainant told Baldoni she did not want to do the scene. He told her she couldn't hold up filming by refusing. Complainant, again, this is Isabella, allegedly, began improvising the scene, sorry, I'm reading this in small font here. I'm taking screenshots of everything here. Complainant began improvising the scene, making what she perceived to be noise of sexual nature. Baldoni placed either of his hands on complainant's outer thighs and stated, "Come on," and stated, end quote, "Come on, you can do better than that," end quote. Baldoni's face was end quote, so close to complainants that she could feel his breath, causing her face to mist. What the world? When you read this, it honestly sounds like a predator did this. Like, it now sounds like a sexual predator that did this. So he continues and says, Baldoni then closed his eyes for several moments and stated, quote, "I'm allowed to say this because my wife knows what I think about a good climax," end quote. And winks at complainant, then said, end quote, complainant then said, quote, "You know how hot this is, right?" End quote. Then Baldoni asked complainant to practice the scene again. This time Baldoni positioned himself only inches from complainant, and complainant stated she needed a restroom break. Baldoni kept his hands on her outer thighs, virtually locking her in place in a very intimate embrace, she relayed. Complainants, redacted, then arrived on set, and complainant waved her over, at which point Baldoni broke the embrace. Complainant states he was so close to her for so long, his breath on her face necessitated her makeup needing to be redone. Oh my God, Jesus Christ. Baldoni's breath was so close to his face that the mist that it created on her face evaporated her makeup. Now, when you think about this, and I'm you know what? I'm just gonna give my advice on the actual, on these actual complaints, okay? And then we'll conclude everything. But I'm gonna take both sides here. Okay, so this is Blake. Okay, this is what Isabella is saying. That's pretty concerning. Hopefully, she told somebody. If this is the case, girl, like, you're a young girl, hopefully you told somebody about it. It looks like she told Blake, who then told Sony, because I don't think Isabel told Sony. And this is like my take on this, and this is what I've gathered, okay? And then Justin's side is like, okay, he's probably like, okay, this is what directors do. Like, directors do this. Like, directors direct, but Justin, it does seem a bit cringy. Like, why are you holding her thigh? There was no reason to hold her thigh. You know, it's disgusting. That's the first complaint. Moving on to complaint number 2. So this is Blake Lively. And now we're talking about Blake Lively in regards to her in the limo or car. And Justin Baldoni's talking about his sexual past and his sexual trauma. And they talk about corn or PORN. So everything's redacted except for Justin Baldoni in terms of the date of complaint. It looks like the date of complaint starts with an M, so it's definitely May. So if I were to kind of line that up together, yep, May 29. So, which I'll put all the pieces together at the end. So I'm just going to read to you the complaint, okay? This is a summary of 3 reports filed by the complaint. Okay, so during the first, here's the second complaint. During the first week of filming, IEWU complaint. I don't know. I don't know what IEWU means. I feel like I should know. Noted several unsettling experiences with her collaborator, boss, and director, Justin Baldoni. On redacted, complaint was in her car with driver redacted and Mr. Baldoni. He started talking about how he had been severely addicted to pornography and had sexual encounters where he didn't have to take for an answer. He didn't take no for an answer, or quote, did not receive consent, end quote, when asking for it, but quote, he did not let that stop him, end of quote. At this time, blank's driver pulled over and insisted Mr. Baldoni exit the vehicle. She then advised blank that her rear-facing dash camera had recorded the incident in its entirety. On blank, Baldoni followed complainant to her trailer and was insisting that he had messages for her from her deceased father. When complainant declined, Baldoni became hostile and stated, "I thought you loved your dad." He then reappeared on set and advised the multiple crew and talent present that complainant must be dealing with hormones. On blank, complainant was filming a scene that was scripted to have her in a hospital gown. At a time when complainant was on set, dressed in the gown and ready to film, Baldoni stopped filming to relay to complainant, so Blake, that she would be nude in this scene. Blake stated it was not written or planned that way, was not included in the nudity writer, and that the intimacy coordinator was not present. Baldoni continued to pressure complainant to film nude, stating that his wife had, quote, ripped her clothes off, end quote, during childbirth. And this is in brackets. Note, this investigator viewed photos of... Wait, what? There was an investigator? There was an investigator. Wait, what? Note, this investigator viewed photos of both Baldoni's children's birth, and his wife was not nude. Right. She wore a black sports bra and had her lower half covered at the time photos were taken after the births. Again, it's okay for a director to be like, okay, I'm inspired by my wife's, birth scene where she was partially nude. I want you to be nude in it. Is it really weird to be nude in a birth scene? Absolutely. But then again, I just watched the movie Baby Girl last year, a few months ago, and anything is possible for these actors. But, if Nicole Kidman can go completely nude for a role, I don't see why it would be weird for just Baldoni to ask Blake Lively that. You know what I mean? But in the context of the sexual harassment, obviously, you're looking at it like, gross, right? At this time, Baldoni stated complainant was, quote, holding up filming, end quote, and feeling pressured by her superior. Complainant agreed to be nude with a modesty strip over her genitals. So Justin Baldoni did put in his complaint in his timeline of events that we've read out, that we've talked about, guys, right? I do have a playlist of each and everything that I've talked about. It should be, in this video is also included in that. We basically said that, Blake Lively, you were not nude, you were wearing black shorts, and, a lot of things were covered. As complainant disrobed, she asked Mr. Baldoni to turn the monitors off so that her naked butt wouldn't be broadcast to the cast and crew. He turned them off, then asked complainant to look at a script note. While she was looking at it, Baldoni quickly flipped the monitors back on. Complainant then realized she was being broadcast nearly nude to all the set monitors and every crew phone and iPad that was synced in. She requested a blanket and was ignored. She addressed Baldoni directly and said, "Get me something to cover myself," end quote, in a raised tone of voice. Complainant's assistant then walked on set and complainant in tears yelled to her, quote, "Please cover me," end quote. An assistant threw her coat over complainant. So if Blake Lively cried, I'm sure there would be tons of evidence showing that, tons of evidence meaning people testifying to that effect in court, if it does reach to court, okay? When it comes to the court, which I'll talk about in the next video, but when it comes to court, they have declined mediation. I mean, a mediator has been assigned and they've declined mediation at this time, which makes sense because we still don't know the official complaint from both sides, because they haven't really approved the parts that have been amended and approved the parts that haven't been amended. They haven't approved the parts that would be the official complaint from both sides. So there's no point to mediate something in which, you know, nobody knows the actual events, the official events that they will be mediating. You know what I mean? The terms and the allegations. If things are still being added, amended, removed, it made sense. It makes sense that they haven't mediated yet. So, I'm assuming then there'll be a lot of people who would then come out and be like, yes, I did see Blake Lively cry and say that please cover me, because she was because she felt and she looked distraught and felt embarrassed and did not feel like she wanted to, you know, have all of this be shown, meaning her behind. At this time, a man complainant did not recognize came on set, and Baldoni stated this was his friend and would be playing the doctor. I don't see any wrong with that. Like, again, Baldoni provided receipts in the fact that the guy who played the doctor is an acclaimed actor, and yeah, you know, that's how I would introduce a friend who happens to be working on the same project that I am. Like, this is my friend. Obviously, he's an actor. That's why he's here. He's not a random guy on the street. He's not a guy that I had lunch with last Tuesday and be like, hey, you want to see Blake Lively's behind? Like, no. But according to Blake Lively, that's what she's saying. Okay, so we continue on here. Complainant, being nearly nude and already vulnerable, did not want this stranger between her bare legs up in stirrups where he could clearly see her butt. Baldoni sighed and rolled his eyes and yelled, quote, "Hold on, everyone. Let's see if blank wants to hold up filming again, blank." Feeling extremely uncomfortable, complainant finished filming the scene with Baldoni's friend despite her misgivings. That's complaint number 2. So this one actually includes 3 complaints in one, right? You have the one where he's talking about, you know, Justin Baldoni's sexual past and the fact that, you know, he felt that he was abused with his previous relationship. The second one, in regards to Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively conversing about how they want the birth scene to be had. The third one, where she then talks about she felt really uncomfortable and unsafe, not safe, and she felt exposed and embarrassed when her behind was exposed to everybody, even though everybody is on set doing the scene and everybody. I'm gonna take devil's advocate here. I'm assuming that when you're filming these type of roles, that everybody's on here to be professional, that seeing actors naked is part of the job, especially if that's what the scene requires. But taking the other devil's advocate, Blake Lively's side, Blake Lively felt not safe and felt, in her words, she didn't feel right. So that's why she had her assistant use her coat to cover her. Okay. And she was crying, apparently. The fourth, of course, her not being uncomfortable with Baldoni's hired actor who happens to be his friend. So that's like 4 incidents in one. Now we're going into the third one. This is the third one, if I can get it here. Now I'm going into Jenny Slate's. Now Jenny Slate's, I believe, is the one that's a bit more damaging, in my personal opinion. And Isabel Ferreira's one is but damaging. But there's a caveat in terms of my opinion on that. I will state that in a second. Let me just see here. I'm just finding. So in a complaint, so this is a complaint in regards to the third complaint, and we're saying that this is Jenny Slate or somebody, we don't really know, this is all alleged, right? But in this third document, we have complainant states she became uncomfortable with Justin Baldoni yesterday while filming. She states Mr. Baldoni puts his bare hands, just say hands, like these are bare hands, my wrinkled ashy hands, these are hands, like you don't need to, like, what do you mean? Was he wearing gloves before? But his bare hand on her butt and said he was quote, trying to help with her posture, end quote. Complainant immediately voiced her displeasure with being touched on an intimate part of her body, and Mr. Baldoni responded with, quote, it's fine, I'm totally hot for my wife, and that's totally a weird thing to say. Yeah, that's a really weird thing to say. Like, if I mistakenly put my hand on someone's body while I was helping them with whatever, I was giving them a hug, I'd be like, oh, sorry. That's immediately that comes to my mind. Oh, sorry. Right? So Mr. Baldoni said, quote, it's fine, I'm totally hot for my wife, end quote, in a dismissive tone. Complainant relayed to Mr. Baldoni that it did not matter that his relationship with his spouse was like that he did not have permission to touch her inappropriately. Agreed. I agree with you, girl. I agree. Baldoni then responded, quote, oh no, better go see HR, end quote. To which complainant, which is, Jenny, I guess, replied, I will. These are such weird things to say. Like, and it's weird too because it's at odds with how Mr. Baldoni himself writes in text messages, right? It's really at odds. And now a lot of when I say it's in quotes, this is what they think that Justin Baldoni has said, right? And they're putting it in quotes. They're saying these are his actual words. So it continues. Approximately 3 hours later, Baldoni approached complainant and stated he was sorry. They got off on the wrong foot. Complainant stated she replied, quote, you got off all right, but it had nothing to do with your feet, end quote, and walked away from Baldoni. Complainant's agent provided text messages from complainant. So Jenny's agent provided text messages from Jenny, including one sent approximately 18 minutes after incident, where a complainant said, quote, Justin Baldoni just literally grabbed my behind in front of the cameras. I want to talk to someone at Sony like now, quote. So many things to say here. So in relation to all of these HR complaints, so we do have text messages from Jenny saying all of this. So I do think the Jenny one is going to be really, really more damaging than anything else, right? Because we have it in writing. Like Jenny saying, I feel really weird, like he just touched my butt, and probably sent messages to her agent. The Blake Lively one, which we already know, it's still the Isabel Ferreira one is also interesting because, again, all of this has happened on or before May 29th, right? Because, yes, so this May 29th, 2023. So this all happened on or before May 29th, 2023. And so at this time, right, Justin Baldoni heard that Blake Lively complained to Sony in regards to Justin Baldoni's behavior. And not only did Blake Lively share her experiences with Justin Baldoni, she also shared her colleague's experience with Justin to Sony about Justin Baldoni. I'm not so in the third complaint regarding to alleged Jenny Slate, we're seeing that Jenny wanted to talk to Sony. So did Jenny talk to Sony? Because we do know that Blake Lively's incidents were definitely investigated. Was Isabella's incidents investigated? Were Jenny Slate's incidents investigated? Did Jenny tell Sony about it? Did Isabella tell Sony about it? Basically all what I'm getting from all of this and coordinating and with all of these other complaints is that Jenny and Isabella definitely had a key moment with Blake that was like, oh my god, like I felt uncomfortable in some moments with him too. But there's no evidence that yet that we've seen that Jenny has complained to Sony. Other than these complaints. You're probably like, okay, but these complaints, like these are the complaints. Yes, I think in my personal opinion, Blake has complained on their behalf to Sony. In Blake's actual complaint, like I told you guys about, it talks about the investigator. Who investigated? Sony investigated, right? That's what we're assuming. That's what I'm assuming. Sony investigated. I see nothing in their complaints about an investigator investigating on Jenny and Isabella's behalf in regards to Jenny and Isabella's complaints. So I'm looking at this as, okay, maybe Isabella, either one of two, Isabella and Jenny just told Blake, or Isabella and Jenny, or Jenny told Sony, and Isabella didn't tell Sony. Because Isabella, remember the email that Isabella sent to, the email that Isabella sent to Justin Baldoni in the summer? She goes, oh my god, thank you so much for being my director. This is like a first experience I've had, yada yada yada, right? So June 22, 2023, Isabel Ferreira, young Lily, participated in an on-set EPK interview designed for use in the film's promotional campaign. Below are the questions as Isabella's responses, focusing on her experiences on set and her thoughts on working with Justin Baldoni. Isabel says the following: at least for me, this is one of my first projects. So I think working with professionals that I've been doing have been this for a really long time, but also who are so open. The crew and Justin and all the actors that I've worked with have just been so open and welcoming. I've never felt belittled in any sort of way. I think just being able to come into set and feeling seen and heard and feeling immediately comfortable and being able to just go in to do what I do and not having any anxieties or worries about how I might be, or I just felt very accepted, I think. And that's Isabella. That's June. That's a month later, or like a few weeks later, after Blake Lively has submitted her complaints to Sony. So we have that. Right. So I think, again, Blake is doing this on their behalf, or both of them do not want to get involved. Isabella is like, yeah, I felt uncomfortable, but it wasn't that bad. I didn't complain to Sony. And then Jenny's like, I complained to Sony, but I don't want to sue anybody. And Blake is like, well, I want to sue for both of you, or I'm going to sue for both of you without your consent, or I'll take this up for all three of us with your consent. Maybe Jenny and Isabella told Blake, you know what, you go ahead and you go sue for us, and I don't mind if you guys use my complaints and use my experiences I've had with Justin. Now, this is all very strange, right? Everybody's saying this is all very strange. Why this is very strange? Because when Variety published the $250 million the article, right, in regards to the lawsuit, Variety went to Sony, and I said, Sony, hey girl, hey, how you doing? Did you actually publish, like, or, you know, investigate? Were there any complaints, like the existence of HR complaints? Do they even exist? And Sony said no. This is what Variety said in the article. Back in August, when coverage of a mysterious feud between Lively and Baldoni began to spiral on social media and in the press, Variety inquired of Sony whether any HR complaints had been filed against Baldoni during production, and was told no. So here's what I've concluded from all of this. Which is, Blake Lively's trying to repair her reputation. Now, she's going to be leaking things like this, obviously, just how Jess Baldoni has been leaking and giving us all of the quote-unquote receipts and tea and all of this to sway public opinion. This is going to look bad for Justin no matter how you look at it, because even if it's true or not, you have reports saying that people were uncomfortable around you at work. You don't want that type of reputation. So it is going to hit Justin Baldoni slightly. The way Blake Lively and their team is doing this is clearly for, you know, to repair Blake Lively's reputation and to show people that, you know what, these things actually happened. Yes, you know, according to them, it did happen. You know, people felt uncomfortable. It was weird. They complained. Now, on to the actual complaints and how they usually are taken. Now, when you file an HR complaint at work, it is on file. It is an official complaint. Versus you just going to your boss and be like, hey, just keep this in mind. Like, I had a bad experience with a worker. We're all looking at this, that these are filed HR complaints. I'm looking at this as filed HR complaints with Sony because an investigator was involved. Who was that investigator? Was that investigator working on Sony's behalf? It had to be, because Wayfair didn't know about it. Wayfair had rumors that, or had a conversation with Sony after they had a conversation with Blake, or while the investigator was investigating. But the problem is, Sony is not the boss of Wayfair. You see what I'm saying here? And people are like, oh, why wasn't Sony sued? Because you still want to work with Sony. Sony is still distributing a lot of movies that you are going to be working with in the future, right? So you don't want to get on Sony's bad side. If you sue Sony, you'll be blacklisted from a lot of big Hollywood projects. But Sony is clearly involved, so Sony will be subpoenaed in one way or another. We will be part of the discovery process, and they have, and they will. Now, with that being said, it's weird to have Sony investigate, because Sony is not the boss of Wayfair, right? And that's why Sony just took a no-hands approach and did this. Y'all do what you do. I'm over here. Okay? Because Sony can't really tell Wayfair what to do. However, we saw through the editing of the movie that Sony clearly had control of the dailies and told Justin's editors, no, Blake Lively is going to edit this movie. So it becomes a really weird relationship. Okay? And it becomes very confusing. It then brings an overarching question, which is, what are the contracts of these people? What did Sony sign? What is Sony responsible? What is Justin Baldoni responsible for? Okay, is Justin Baldoni the producer, the creator, the director, the actor? That's his role, right? And then Sony is just to what? Promote and distribute. Do they have investigative authority to investigate HR complaints? Do they have the ability to hold dailies, unedited footage of a film and tell the director, hey, no, the big star will be using it to edit her version? Or was Justin like, no, Sony doesn't have control over that, but I'm just going to make everybody happy just so we can publish and produce and distribute this film and market this film. So these are the questions. So after all of this, what do I take from this? I need to see everybody's contract. I need to see everybody's responsibilities. What is everybody's responsibilities? Who are the investigators? Was Sony the one investigating? Okay. Why did Sony come out and say, and if so, why did Sony come out and say they lied? Why did they say no? Then who investigated? Oh, Lord, this is so messy. And the fourth, this will damage Justin's reputation for sure. I think the Jenny Slate one is the more creepy of them all. Isabella, yes, but like, why would Isabella come out and say like she had the best experience of her life filming? Like, she felt so comfortable and seen, and you know, no anxiety. She said like. So, but you can still say all of that and still have moments where you felt really uncomfortable, right? And still be sexually harassed, or maybe lie, like you're still working for your employer that you don't really like, so you're gonna lie because you don't want to make people pleasing, right? You want to please people, you want to please your employer, and also you're giving this interview to the world. So you don't want the world to know that you have uncomfortable feelings in regards to your boss. And then number 3, again, you're still working for your boss. So you don't want any reciprocity. You don't want any reprisal. You don't want any negative actions be done against you by your employer, right? So there's that. There's a lot going on. And I thought this would help us, but it really doesn't. It doesn't, guys. It doesn't. Let me know your thoughts. There's a lot going on here. But those are my 4 questions. Again, I need to know everybody's contract. What is everybody's responsibilities? Who was the investigator? Sony? Why did Sony lie if they were the investigator? And number 4, what was the 4th question? Okay, y'all know the 4th question. Let me know your questions. Let me know what you guys think. And don't forget to follow. Oh my God, I always forget to say this in the beginning. Follow, like, comment, share, subscribe. Share this to your friends, your family. I don't care. Share them to your haters. Yes, leave all your comments. Like, no comment is a bad comment. I love to see people's point of views about all of this. It increases my viewpoint of things. My viewpoint of all of this is quite wide and quite open because we're all putting the pieces together. Yeah, I'm more confused now than before, honestly. Oh my God. Okay, stay woke and stay healthy and stay safe. Oh, I didn't say, don't say, I'm not into saying woke, but hopefully you guys have a lovely winter day. It's a massive snowstorm here in Canada, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao.